learning. So until we are going to include innovation in our classrooms, it's going to be very, very difficult for all of us to engage our 21st century learners. So therefore, we thought this particular topic, which is also a CBSE proposed topic, is very, very important and very imperative in the learning of the educators who are going to drive this in their respective schools. Wonderful. So, once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. If you are seated comfortably in your homes, then I'd request all of you to keep your cameras on. It just facilitates better interaction. However, if you're traveling, then you could keep your cameras off to preserve bandwidth. But it's my sincere request to all of you who are seated comfortably in your homes to please keep your cameras on so that we can continue to have a very, very engaging discussion as we move ahead. So, thank you to all of you who have joined in today, and as a special thank you to those of you who keep their cameras on during the session, because only then it's possible for me to know how connected we are during the process of learning. So that's me. My name is Paromita Chattopadhyay. I am the training head at ZLearn. And yes, we have been meeting once every month for the last 22 months now. So I think our connection has become really strong, really deep. And I truly appreciate the fact that every month, month on month, all of you join me back for this learning program, which definitely is testimony that to the fact that you people are committed to learning and each one of you wants to do the very best for your learners in class. And I think nothing makes me happier than to see such committed educators of the MLZS network. Like I said, today's topic is very, very interesting. I don't know, requesting people not to share their screen. Thank you so much. Um, Today's session, like I said, is very, very interesting because we are talking of innovation. And we know that whether it is a product, whether it is service, or whether it is education, unless and until we are committed to innovating, committed to doing something new, it will be pretty much impossible for us to keep our learners engaged. And unless and until we are able to keep our learners engaged, there is going to be a lot of disconnect between us and our learners, because everyone here is looking for an engagement. Every learner wants to be in class where he or she feels valued, where he or she feels connected, where he or she feels that they are learning something new, because there's nothing more exciting than learning. So, if we can continue to innovate, if we can continue to make our classrooms very, very exciting for all our learners, then believe you me, we will never fail. And we will ensure that all our learners in the classroom, all the learners in our classroom are at all points of time feeling that they're getting value from our classes. So before I begin today's session, I would like to know from all of you that what is design thinking. So if you could please use the chat window to tell me, what do you think is design thinking? So that's our ice-breaking question for today. What do you think, or what is it that you know about design thinking? I'd love to understand from you as to what you know, and then basis that we could take this ahead. What, according to you, is design thinking? Let me see what answers are coming. To develop students' critical thinking. Wonderful, Lakshmi. Any more answers? What is design thinking? I'm waiting for your answers. Yes, my dear educators, innovative ideas for critical thinking. Damanpreet says, okay. To make them creative. It's a process of solving problems. Wonderful, Pooja. Think out of the box, skill to solve a problem, innovative thinking, more precise knowledge, develop creative ideas, think out of the box, to develop activities through which we can do their holistic development, okay? To think more practical and innovative, to think out of the box, okay? Practical procedures used by designers in the designing process. My God, that's a complicated one. Creative and critical thinking, more critical thinking, think more practical, planned thinking, okay? Design thinking refers to a set of cognitive, strategic, and practical procedures used by designers. My God, that looks like a Google answer to me. Thank you, Megha. Parminder, to shape the thinking process of students, change the traditional thinking process. Okay, wonderful. It's a designing strategy. You mean clothes designing? To think, to be practical, okay? Innovative ideas for collaboration, create a design plan to solve a problem. That's a wonderful answer, Suja. To active depers, okay, now I didn't get that. To build in students a strong personality and socially creative. Okay, you want children to become socially creative, to find innovative solutions. Okay, wonderful. I think all of these are, in many which ways, if not the correct answer, but definitely leading, or, when we put all of them together, it does make the right answer. Nishma says, think critically for more decisive. Sipra says it's a structured process that guides to work and collaborate, thinking to tackle ill defined problems and situations. Wonderful. So, lot many answers, lot many diverse answers, and like I mentioned, all of them are correct. Might not be totally correct, but yes, definitely leading up to what design thinking is all about. So, thank you all so much for sharing your answers, because it kind of helps me set up a base. It helps me understand what is it that you already are coming with. It's like tapping previous knowledge in your classrooms and then building on what we have to add additionally to your existing knowledge. Okay, wonderful. So, some more answers are still coming. I will see a few of them. To build up confidence by developing innovative solutions. Great. I'm going to share my screen. I'd request, once again, requesting everyone who's comfortably seated to please keep their cameras on, because it only makes interaction a lot better, easier, and more connecting. So if you are seated comfortably in your homes or in your schools, I'd request you to please keep your cameras on. Once again, a very warm welcome to the 425 of you who are gathered here for today's Ascent Learning Series session on design thinking and innovation in classrooms. Wonderful. So let's get started almost immediately. First, let us understand what is innovation and why do we need to innovate? Because if we are constantly saying innovate, innovate, we need to know why there is a need to innovate. We need to understand that. And to understand that, let's first understand what is it that today we are going to be covering. Can I get a volunteer who would help me read this out as to what the learning objectives of today's session are? You could probably do a show of hand and I could unmute you. Lakshmi Sikarwar. Please unmute yourself, Lakshmi. Requesting everyone to not annotate on the screen. It is really a huge distraction for people who are trying to concentrate. Appreciate it. Yes,
Good
Lakshmi.
evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Lakshmi.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please
What's
read this
in
out?
it for you?
Yes.
Discuss the need for innovation. List ways to include innovation in the classroom. Use tools for innovation to increase engagement. Explain use of ICT for classroom innovation. Define design thinking. List characteristics of design thinking. Explain importance of design thinking in education. Explain the stages of design thinking process.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Thank you. Yes, this is what we have set out to achieve today in the 90 minutes that we're going to be spending together. And hopefully, by the end of these 90 minutes, we would be a little richer in the understanding of design thinking. So let's immediately head into our learning session. First and foremost, the most important question of all, why innovate? We need to know, why are we innovating? Why can't we continue to teach the way our teachers have taught us and how teaching learning process has been happening for bygones eras? Why do you think it needs to change? That's the most important question we need to first address. Okay. So if you see this pyramid, this is the learning pyramid. Okay, my dear friends, this is the learning pyramid. If you see, what we have been doing for the longest time is following the reverse pyramid. We've been investing a lot of time in using lecturing method, in asking the children to read from the text. After that, there was a little bit more innovation, and we added audio visuals in the form of presentations or in the form of charts, in the form of flip charts, in the form of flashcards. Then we went a little step ahead and we added demonstration, wherein we said, okay, let's demonstrate experiments to our children so that they understand that better. Then, post that, we also moved ahead to saying, let's have a healthy discussion or brainstorming on the subject so that we can get myriad ideas from our learners. Once we did that, we realized that though all of this is generating a lot of retention, but unless the student is going to be doing this over and over again, multiple times, till then we will not be able to get the desired retention of a particular content, and of course, also not the application of that content. But what we finally, as educators and as educational psychologists, we've all come to realize is it's only when we teach someone is when we learn the best. And therefore, if you see in our schools, peer teaching, okay, peer teaching has become a very, very popular technique. Another very popular technique which has gathered momentum in the last few years, my dear educators, is that of flipped classroom. In flipped classroom, also, it's the same strategy that we apply. We ask the students to first prepare a concept from home by reading up some literature, by going through videos, by going through presentations and everything. Then they come to class and they present what they have learned. And then there is a healthy discussion with the other peers and with the teacher to fill in the gap areas. So if you look at the learning pyramid, our traditional methods of lecturing, reading, and using presentations will only help us achieve 20% of retention of the topics taught. And that's really not good enough. Therefore, to ensure higher levels of engagement, higher levels of retention, we have to go down to the base of the pyramid and ensure we are focusing more on demonstrations, on discussions, on practicing, that is real life application, and of course, peer teaching. Wonderful. So, this is why we need to innovate, right? Voice is cracking, is it? Shabnam, is my voice cracking? Is my voice cracking? No? Okay. Okay,
No, it's
let me
not
move.
cracking.
Okay, I'm getting some messages. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, educators. Thank you. Maybe them some bandwidth issue with them. Okay, so first and foremost, we understood why we need to innovate. Now let's understand what are the different approaches, different techniques that we can use to innovate in our classrooms. First was the need to innovate. We need to innovate because learning will happen better when we use innovative teaching measures in class. Now, if you look at this, what are the different ways to innovate in class? We can have interactive teaching. Like nowadays, we are using a lot of gamifications. We are using case studies. We are using simulations. We are using apps. For example, we have a Mount Liter app. We are also coming up with a new English learning app called the Freedom app. So all of these, plus having infusing manipulatives and games, is going to make learning very, very interesting, because today's children are the children of the digital era who enjoy learning in that manner, right? Apart from that, we can give collaborative projects. Now, collaborative projects harnesses each one's strength. Okay, one, if you make a group, if you do a strength based allocation of groups in project, you know, one child is good with research, another child is good with articulation, the third child is good with presentation, the fourth child is able to speak well and deliver well. So you make a group of 4 children who will work on a project together as a team. They will be able to solve the problem through brainstorming and then come up with the best possible result. So that's again a great way to establish innovation and engagement in the class. Next one is flipped classroom. I'm requesting everyone to please stop annotating. And if your children are sitting with you, please ensure that they do not do that. It's a kind request because it is a huge amount of distraction for anyone who's trying to speak or listen. Thank you so much. Next one is the flipped classroom approach. In this approach, like I already mentioned to you, we flip the roles. The student becomes the facilitator and the facilitator becomes the student, wherein the student will be assigned a particular topic or a content to read up, to use literature which is available either from the school textbooks or from the internet, and come back prepared on a topic. Then the students share that with the class. All students get an opportunity to share it with the class. And as a facilitator, whatever queries the children have, basis the learning or the literature that they have read up, that they will ask the teacher. So, what happens in the class is active learning. Children have already done the reading up. So, what they are doing is query resolution and they are asking higher order questions in the class. So, flipped classroom is again a great innovation in terms of a technique which we can use in the class. Next is creative assignments. Instead of giving them the boring, done to death, write this answer in 100 words kind of a question, please give them more innovative options like use drawings or make a small video presentation or shoot a video and come back on this particular topic. So, what happens? Children are excited to work on it. They will storyboard, they will do a voiceover, and they'll come back to you with a very, very creative assignment. Got it? So, we should try and make our learning as interactive and as creative as possible, and most importantly to continually keep on developing our learning techniques so that we can use technology, we can leverage technology well, and we should be able to give. So what we are doing in our classes today, in the next academic year we should do something new, and the following academic year again something new, so that there is a challenge for the teacher also as well as for the students. These are great ways to innovate in the classroom. Great. So, what are the different ways in which we can foster greater engagement in the class? So, of course, I know many of us, if you see our BLDs also, many of our BLDs include these tools already. We have various teaching strategies which we have bucketed under 8 heads, and many of these which you see here are already part of those teaching strategies. So if we are following our BLDs truly, then we do not see a problem as to why we cannot use these really, really interactive tools to make our classrooms very, very engaging. For example, role playing, especially when it comes to English or it comes to any kind of languages, when it comes to history, role play, even civics for that matter, role playing is a fantastic way for them to learn because they are actually playing that part. So they will never forget what that person had to do or how that person contributed to that particular event. So role plays are a great way to innovate and great way to engage in the class. Radio shows. Now, all of us have PA systems in our school. Most of us have PA systems in our school. So, if you do not want to start a radio frequency in your schools, which is again a great way to do it, you could just allow the children to use the PA system of the school and start like a smallish radio in which they will share important news about the school, or different kinds of innovations, or grade 5 is putting up a stall on botanical plants, so please come and buy. So they can have multiple ways of promoting their product, their services. So a radio show is again a great way to engage students better, because here the scripting, the ideation, everything is going to be done by the children. So then there is high level of engagement. Demonstrations we've already spoken about. Mind map and concept map. Now, concept mapping or mind mapping, though they are both geos, but graphic organizers. But what makes them different is normally mind map is coming together of multiple small concepts, so therefore can be used fantastically for summarizing. Concept map is normally used to introduce a concept, Or else, if you're supposing you're teaching photosynthesis, okay, so if you're teaching photosynthesis, you know what are the various components which are required for the process of photosynthesis. So the concept here is photosynthesis, and in the other circles, you can put in the components which are required for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so that's a concept map and a mind map. Storytelling, again, a very, very, very powerful medium, because people might forget sine theta by cos theta, but they will never forget that in a race that the hare and the tortoise ran, it was the tortoise who won the race. So even if you ask people who read this story maybe 30, 50 years back, still remember this, because that's the impact a story has. And that's why when you weave something as a story, that becomes unforgettable. So the smarter you are as an educator to weave a narrative, that much stronger is the impact. Of course, we all know about field trips. There's nothing new in that. Then we have games. We have brochure making. Now, brochure making is again a great way to engage students. Supposing they are doing a project on water conservation, and they've decided to make a rainwater harvesting system in the school or in their society, them to make a brochure advertising their project. In that, they will do a 360-degree learning on how to put together a project, what are the points, where to put a picture, how much to speak, what are the components, who has helped them. They'll have an acknowledgement in that, how to contribute. So it will be like a holistic learning, a very real life kind of project. Good sense of humor. Now, this is something you must use very wisely, because sometimes we might end up hurting people. So we have to be very careful as to how we are using humor. For example, if you are doing a role play and we want to infuse humor in that, you have to ensure that it's not hurting anybody's sentiments. That's the critical part of it. Okay. And use new methods to evaluate. Why do we always have to evaluate them on a pen paper test? Create interesting rubric for evaluating the role play. Create an interesting rubric to evaluate the road shows. So give them parameters wherein they can actually showcase their skills. And most importantly, keep your instructions very, very simple. The simpler your instructions, the easier it is to follow that. And the easier it is to follow that, that much more number of people will be partaking. Right? So let's move ahead. These are a few tools. And in today's digital age, if you're not using ICT in your classroom, okay, information and communication technology in your classrooms, then, my dear educators, we are faltering to engage a generation which is born with a gadget in their hands. So that is something you absolutely need to do. So apart from using physical manipulatives, you can use virtual manipulatives, because they give we all know the use of VR and AR. So when you're giving your children virtual manipulatives, they almost feel that they are present in that space or in that time, and then they enjoy it a lot more. Of course, online classes have begun and have become a part of our lives from the time COVID struck. But even today, due to our national calamities, or the often sometimes it's too much rain, sometimes it's too much sun, or whatever, I think online classes contribute to ensuring that our curriculum does not suffer. Now, there is also a way that you can do digital field trips. Now, what is a digital field trip? Now, you want to take them to Buckingham Palace. So, obviously, you're not going to be able to take 70 of your children to Buckingham Palace. So, what do? You can organize a digital field trip wherein a virtual tour of the Buckingham Palace can be seen, and the children can actually, if you're using virtual reality, if you're using VR, they can actually feel that they are in the presence of the people who are there in the palace. So digital field trips have become very, very popular now. Even digital labs, wherein you can actually simulate the feeling of doing that experiment sitting back at home. The same thing can be done for computer coding also. So digital field trips, digital labs have become a norm today. So if we are not able to physically take our children due to a time constraint, due to budget constraints, then digital field trips are a great way to use innovation in your classrooms. Gamified learning, I've already told you, our curriculum team here is going to be doing that in a very, very big manner for the next academic year. We are going to introduce a lot of gamified learning. So, what you see on MLL app now is going to be taken notches higher in the next academic year on a new platform. And that's for all of you to wait and watch. Of course, podcasts, I feel, are a great way to involve children, wherein you can ask the children to do their own podcasts, and use different multimedia techniques for that. Or else you can use existing podcasts to help them understand a concept a lot better. So, these are the various ways in which we can integrate real time learning for our learners in the classroom, because innovation is the key, because if we do not constantly innovate, our children will lose interest in our classes, right? Great. So now I come to one of my most favorite parts of every learning session. This is the first checkpoint. Can I have some volunteers who would want to read the question out for me? Otherwise, I can also pick. That's absolutely fine. Vividha. Okay, Vividha, please unmute yourself. Hi, Sandhya ma'am. Lovely to see you here. Vividha, please unmute yourself.
Ma'am.
Good evening, Vividha. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
I'm very well, Vividha. Please read out the question for us.
Yes, ma'am. Identify the teaching approach which fosters innovation by applying the concept of preparation at home and presented in class by the learner.
Sorry, sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, tell me.
Option are interactive learning, collaborative project, flipped classroom, and business learning.
Which one is the answer, Vividha?
Ma'am, flipped classroom.
Yes, you're right. Let's see if all our other friends are also right. Let me look at the chat window. Thank you so much, Vividha, for that answer. Let's see. Some are saying A. Okay. C, C, C. Okay, let me see. There are some A's which came in. How many? One? Only one? Okay. Most of it is C. Gurpreet says B. Okay. Collaborative project. Okay. Okay. Most of the answers are C. Well, yes, C is the right answer. Thank you all so much for giving that answer. Why is it true? Because if you see, you're assigning the concept for preparation beforehand. Okay. And the learner is coming to class and presenting it. So you have flipped the roles here. You have become the learner, and the learner has become the facilitator. So it is a flipped classroom technique. Poonam, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat window, or else if you wanted to, kind of read this question, I'll bank you and I will have you read the next question that is coming up. Thank you all so much for all those answers. The correct answer is flipped classroom. So, a modern day classroom becomes engaging only when we are doing the explanation using various kinds of techniques and we are using multiple pedagogies. Now, the moment I say multiple pedagogies, I want to know from all of you, what do you understand by this word? What does multiple pedagogy mean? Can I get some answers in the chat window? All you wonderful educators, when I say use multiple pedagogy in the classroom, what is it that I'm trying to tell you? Different learning theories. Okay, so there are different methods of teaching. Wonderful, Priya. Anybody else? New methods, heterogeneous teaching methods, different procedures. If some of you could name a few procedures, it would help. Different methods, new way of teaching, different modes of communication. Am I okay? Innovation, ways of teaching, integration teaching, different ways of teaching, 5E method, wonderful. Interdisciplinary approach, brainstorming, wonderful. Multiple dimensions, constructivism and connectivism, okay, multiple approaches. Intertextuality, understand the kids to teach them the way they comprehend the 5 E's. Covering all subjects. Okay, when you say covering all subject, it becomes more multidisciplinary. Okay, that's a different kind of a concept. But multiple pedagogy, learning by doing. Okay, wonderful. So when I say multiple pedagogies, my dear educators, what I'm actually trying to say is pedagogy is nothing but the way you teach children. What we are doing now is called andragogy because I am your trainer and all of you in the session are adults. So we cannot call it pedagogy. Pedagogy comes from the root word peda, which means child. So anything that you do to teach a child or to train a child is pedagogy, right? So when I say multiple pedagogies, what I'm trying to say here is that instead the various kinds of instructional methods that you use to teach. Okay, you can use the chalk and talk method. You can use the multimedia method. You can use sports as a way of what we call the sports pedagogy. You can teach science using sports. You can teach math using sports. So you can teach language using performing arts. So all these performing arts is a pedagogy. Storytelling is a pedagogy. Sports is a pedagogy. Integrated learning, that is multidisciplinary, is a pedagogy. Interdisciplinary is a pedagogy. So multiple pedagogy ways basically means using different formats or different techniques to teach in order to ensure that everyone is learning and learning in a way that is fun. Because I always tell this in my trainings that unless and until you people are having fun, you will never remember what you learned. If it is going to be boring and monotonous and drudgery, then you will be waiting for the class to get over. So when you are teaching or when you are the facilitator, please remember that while you have this burden of completing the BLD in class, ensure that the learning for your learners is fun. So therefore, using multiple pedagogies is a great way to ensure higher levels of engagement. Okay. So basically, if you look at this particular, a flow chart, so you'll see that different approaches, different assets. When I say asset, what are the different assets? Different resources that we can use to teach. Those are your teaching assets. So even in an English learning classroom, multiple formats of teaching the language can be used. You can blend technology to teach language. So therefore, basically, a 21st century classroom needs to be a perfect blend of different pedagogies, different teaching resources, different teaching strategies, so that overall we are able to make our classrooms extremely exciting for every kind of learner. All of you are aware that there are different kinds of learners, right? We all know that there are different kinds of learners. We've heard of the four learning preferences. That's the VARK model: visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. So each of us has a different learning preference. And depending on our learning preference, we will be taking back from one of those pedagogies, from one of those approaches, from one of those resources. Our effort needs to be directed in a way that we are able to offer this variety, and that is what we call innovation, my dear friends, in the classrooms. And that's what we need to keep doing. Otherwise, very soon we'll become redundant and our learners will not want to come to school. When we were meeting a few principals, we were pretty disappointed to know that children are often absent from school, and the reason their parents give is that they learn better when they are at home. Now, how disappointing is that? How can school not be more fun than home, where you're sitting with your bunch of friends, you're interacting, there's so much action happening? How can sitting with one book or opening a laptop and sitting for 5 6 hours be more exciting than coming to school? That means somewhere we are faltering. Somewhere there is a lacuna which we have to plug in so that the children feel it's way more engaging and entertaining to go to school than to sit at home with a book or with a laptop or with a personal tutor and learn. Let's now move into. So, first, we've understood the need for innovation. I've told you certain techniques which we can use, certain tools that we can use in classroom for innovation. Wanted to tell you this because design thinking has become a way of life now. You don't have to be a designer in order to integrate design thinking in your learning processes. Please understand, many of you mentioned that it is a designer's role. I feel it is anyone who wants to do something new, anyone who wants to solve a problem, it is their domain. Okay, so design thinking is not restricted to a designer. Design thinking is anyone's domain who wants to solve a human problem or cater to a human need. So let's understand what design thinking is all about. So if you see the definition of design thinking is a human-centered problem-solving approach that leverages creativity, empathy, and iterative prototyping to create innovative solutions. Okay, so basically there are 4 or 5 steps that are used, actually 5 steps, which are used in order to solve a problem. Okay, I'm getting okay. Yes, design thinking is a way of solving a problem. That is the right answer. So let's understand how can we use design thinking in our classrooms. Before we go into that, let us understand what is the benefit of using design thinking in our classrooms. It obviously enhances creativity because बच्चे वो नहीं कर सकते जो वो अब तक करते आ रहे हैं. उनको कुछ नया करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने का तरीका ही नया होना चाहिए. तो ऑब्वियसली उससे क्रिएटिविटी एनहांस होगी. क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग क्यों एनहांस होगी? क्योंकि अगर चार ग्रुप्स को या 4 बच्चों को ये चीज, एक प्रोजेक्ट या एक टॉपिक असाइन किया गया है, हर एक के पास उसी प्रॉब्लम के अलग अलग सॉल्यूशंस होंगे. So everyone is going to think critically, following the 5 steps of design thinking and come up with the best possible solution, because no problem in the world has only one solution. But if I, as a facilitator, am giving the solution, I only know of one solution. But when I have a think tank of 25 children, they are all going to brainstorm. They are going to use the scamper technique if we are structuring it. And they are going to come up with the best possible innovative solutions to a problem. So design thinking enhances creativity, develops critical thinking, gives you the ability to solve real world problems. जो दुनिया में हो रहा है वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने की क्षमता आपको देता है, क्योंकि जो टॉपिक्स असाइन होते हैं वो टॉपिक्स भी रियल वर्ल्ड प्रॉब्लम के होते हैं. जैसे कि हाउ वुड यू मैनेज दिस टन्स एंड टन्स ऑफ गार्बेज व्हिच इज कमिंग आउट एज अर्बन वेस्ट इन ऑल बिग सिटीज. इट इज अ रियल वर्ल्ड प्रॉब्लम. आप उनको कुछ ऐसा नहीं दे रहे हैं जो किताबी है. तो वो देख रहे हैं उनके आसपास, घर के पास, स्कूल के पास, मॉल के पास कि डंपिंग कितनी बुरी तरह से हो रही है, जिससे बदबू फैल रही है, जिससे डिजीज फैल रहा है. सो देन वी आर गिविंग देम अ रियल वर्ल्ड प्रॉब्लम टू सॉल्व. And we are preparing them for future challenges. Kyunki when they will pass out of school, they will all be taking up jobs or becoming entrepreneurs wherein they will be having to solve real world problems. And that's why design thinking is a very, very critical tool that we can use or we can teach our children in the classroom so that they can become better problem solvers and better decision makers. There are 5 steps to it. Let's first understand. So, what makes design thinking a better process of problem solving than the ADDIE model? There's also another model of which is called a waterfall model. मतलब वो एक ही तरफ चलता है. आपने शुरुआत की और ये शुरुआत है. आप ऐसे ऐसे आए. It's a linear thinking model. Basically, what I'm trying to say. This is the start and this is the end. What makes design thinking different is if you see the way it is structured also, it's not a linear process. Though I have mentioned the steps as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however, after any step, you can go back to any step. That's what makes design thinking such a fantastic problem solving process. So it all begins first with empathizing. We've heard the word empathy. It's also a core value in the ESP, if you all know that. ESP is the emerging student profile. Now, हम चाहते हैं हमारे सारे माउंट लिटरेंस में ESP दिखे. तो जब हम चाहते हैं उन सब में ESP दिखे, उसमें से एक जो कोर वैल्यू है वो है एम्पथी. तो ये जो डिजाइन थिंकिंग का जो प्रोसेस है वो स्टार्ट ही एम्पथी से होता है. और जब मैं कहती हूँ एम्पथी, मतलब किसी की प्रॉब्लम को समझना, किसी की नीड को समझना. जैसे कि अगर इतना गार्बेज डंप हो रहा है तो इससे द roads are getting blocked, then there is choking of the underground pipes and sewage system, then obviously there is disease which is getting caused due to all of it. So that is a problem. So my need is to be able to dispose of garbage well. Now, in most of the parts of the country, there is flooding happening because of rain. अभी हम अगर आज की प्रॉब्लम ले तो अगर best ways of ensuring sewage of rainwater, so then you should be able to give these kind of problems to your learners जो उनके आसपास हो रहा है, क्योंकि वो लोग उससे आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं, वो देख रहे हैं कि हर जगह पे पानी जमा हो रहा है. They are watching water clogging happening, because of which trains are getting disrupted, bus service is disrupted, everything is disrupted, basically life is disrupted. So you tell them what are the best training techniques that we can apply to ensure that there is no waterlogging during heavy downpour. Now that's a very, very important problem. So you ask the children to empathize. What is empathize? Understand what is the problem area by talking to people. So supposing it is a problem that you have given them of how to conserve water in your school premise. So what will the children do? You will assign them. They will go from class to class of different grades and ask children what is the problem that they are facing in terms of saving water, or what are the ways they think they can save water, or how important it is to save water. That is the empathize stage, जहां पे वो जाके सबसे पूछते हैं कि उनकी तकलीफ क्या है, टारगेट ऑडियंस. एक बार उन्होंने सबसे पूछ लिया, सारा डेटा अक्रू कर लिया, उसके बाद आता है स्टेज 2, जिसे हम कहते हैं प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट को फॉर्म करना, और जिसे हम हाइपोथेसिस भी कह सकते हैं. So they will form the problem statement that our school is suffering from water shortage every week for 6 to 7 hours, and therefore we have to find ways to solve the water crisis. Now that is the problem statement. Once the problem statement has been frozen, then the team comes together to ideate. क्या कर सकते हैं? ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग करते हैं. ये आइडिया लिखो. ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग में क्या होता है? कोई भी सही या गलत आइडिया नहीं होता है. If there are 25 children sitting and they do brainstorming, all 25 ideas need to be put on the board, because nothing is a good or a bad idea. Brainstorming is putting together. It's about divergence. It's about putting together all the ideas which are coming. तो वो सारे जो आइडियाज जो आ रहे हैं, जो सोल्यूशंस जो आ रहे हैं, उसे हम उस जो डिफाइंड प्रॉब्लम है उसके अगेंस्ट लिख देंगे. एक बार आइडिएशन हो गया, उसके बाद हम प्रोटोटाइपिंग शुरू करेंगे. व्हाट इज प्रोटोटाइपिंग? इज टू क्रिएट अ सर्विस और अ प्रोडक्ट विच विल हेल्प यू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. ओके, आइडिएशन मतलब हम सिर्फ सोच रहे हैं कि हमें क्या करना है. प्रोटोटाइप मतलब हम एक्चुअली उस प्रोडक्ट को बना रहे हैं या उस सर्विस को आउटलाइन कर रहे हैं, जिससे हमारी ये प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट सॉल्व हो जाएगी. और एक बार वो प्रोडक्ट या सर्विस रेडी हो गई तो उसके बाद हम उसकी टेस्टिंग करेंगे. हम बोलेंगे कि देखिए, हमने ये वाला एक नोजल टैप पे लगाया है, ताकि जब आप टैप खोले पानी पीने के लिए तो पानी का फ्लो जो है वो धीरे धीरे आएगा. इसके वजह से पानी का कंजम्पशन कम होगा और वेस्टेज कम होगा. तो इससे क्या हुआ? ये हो गया उनका टेस्टिंग. दे विल टेस्ट द प्रोडक्ट टू सी द एफिकेसी ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट. Now, if the testing shows कि नहीं, उससे भी water conserve नहीं हो रहा है, they will go back straight from the testing phase to the ideation phase. They don't have to go to prototype. क्योंकि आइडिएशन स्टेज में उनके पास 10 आइडियाज थे, जिसमें से एक पे उन्होंने प्रोटोटाइप बनाया था. Now that the prototype is not working, the children can go back from the testing phase directly to the ideation phase and look at the 9 other ideas that they had thought of. And that's what makes design thinking such a precious problem solving process, because you do not have to follow a linear pattern of solving the problem. Are we clear on this? So, why is problem solving using design thinking so good? Because you can move from any step to any step. अगर आपको लगता है कि आइडिएशन स्टेज में जो 9 आइडियाज आपने सोचे थे वो ठीक नहीं है, क्यों ठीक नहीं है? क्योंकि प्रोबेबली हमने लोगों की जो प्रॉब्लम है वो ठीक से समझी नहीं थी। तो आप सीधा आइडिएट स्टेज से कौन से स्टेज पे चले जाएंगे? एम्पथाइज स्टेज पे चले जाएंगे, ताकि आप फिर से जाके अपने ऑडियंस को पूछ सके कि उनकी एक्चुअल प्रॉब्लम क्या है। So this is a beautifully designed process for solving a very large problem or a very small problem. And when you use this in your classrooms, you will be able to enable your learners to be solving very, very complex problems very, very simply. Let's understand these steps a little better. Before that, let's go in and understand our second checkpoint. Can I have some? Anu ma'am, would you like to answer this question? Please unmute yourself, Anu ma'am.
All of these are benefits of integrating.
You got muted. Yeah, please unmute, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, ma'am. You had kind of gotten muted again.
Hello?
Yes, yes, can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you. You can speak.
Ma'am,
Yes, I can hear you.
all of these are benefits of integrating design thinking in classroom, except develops critical thinking, improves problem solving skills, improves results, enhance creativity. I
Which
think the
one do you
answer is
think?
improves results.
Yes, ma'am, that's true, because problem solving cannot improve results. It can definitely improve real life, results, but not does not improve your academic results per se. Thank you so much for that answer. So yes, the benefits of design thinking is that it will build critical thinking, it will build problem solving, it will enhance creativity, and in the larger goal, it will definitely improve the result of the child's real life application skills, might not be so much academic results. Okay, great. Let me see the answers that have come in. Answers are C, C, C. Any other answers? We'll never go for result betterment. Okay. Yes, Trupti, improves results is the right answer. I mean, wrong answer. Yes. Okay. So I'm almost everyone's answer is a C. Thank you so much. Let's move ahead and understand each of these 5 steps a little better. So that you know what needs to be done, so that in your respective subjects, if you're a maths teacher, then how are you going to integrate design thinking in mathematical problems? If you're a science teacher, then how are you going to integrate design thinking in your science classrooms? So, couple of case studies I can share with you, but it is the entire forum is open. There are limitless possibilities where you can use design thinking in your classrooms to help your children understand the process of problem solving, right? So, what is empathize? Empathize is basically to understand the needs and perspectives of the students. Because if you're giving them a school related problem, then their audience is students. If you're giving them a larger problem, maybe something in which they need to include their parents and neighbors, then yes, that becomes their audience, target audience. So, they will need to go have an interview with them, have certain observations, they can create empathy maps, and basically all ways to accrue data. In empathize, what do you do is data collection, basically, wherein you understand people's problems and then you collect data around that, so that you have a deep understanding of the need, and basis that you can frame your problem statement. Okay. Then the next step we go to is define. Because unless and unlike, for example, जब हम क्लास शुरू करते हैं तो हमारे पास क्या डिफाइंड होता है? अपना लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव. वैसे ही कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट असाइन करने से पहले उनको भी पता होना चाहिए कि हमें क्या फाइंड आउट करना है, हम कौन सी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे हैं. So therefore, defining the problem statement or your hypothesis becomes the most important part. Once you have defined, only then you'll be able to solve it. Right? So problem statement. So when we say problem statement, उसमें specific issue लिखा होना चाहिए कि exactly what are we trying to achieve. Okay. And then the problem point of view statement expresses the problem from the perspective of the target user. For example, अगर हम कह रहे हैं the garbage dump, or I'm talking about water loggings on roads, or I'm talking about the long queues that are there in most of these ticketing places. So if any of these are the problem statements, then you need to think of it from the perspective, not your perspective, but from the perspective of the target audience. That's the stage 2. Now, once you have done, you have empathized, you have collected data on what is the problem area, you've already framed your problem statement. Next comes the ideation stage. Now, this stage is a critical stage wherein we brainstorm. Like I mentioned to you, what is brainstorming? Brainstorming is putting together collective ideas that have come from the entire team who's working on that project, okay, or on that task. After we have done that, we can make it, because we've got multiple ideas, we've listed them all down. Then to connect those ideas, there might be some overlapping ideas. Maybe me and Anumam or Vividha gave the same ideas. Okay. So what do? We will do a mind mapping so that we can eliminate those which are overlapping. Okay. And we can crystallize the ones which are distinctive in nature. So brainstorming is a free-flowing idea. Everybody, Shabnam gave an idea, Ranju gave an idea, Vrinda gave an idea, everybody gave an idea. We put it all on the board. Then in mind mapping, we removed the overlapping ideas. If you think that this kind of process can be very, very time consuming, क्योंकि सबके पास एक अलग आइडिया है, प्रिया के पास एक अलग है, मुक्ता के पास एक अलग है, सबके पास एक अलग आइडिया है, तो टीचर क्या कर सकती है, और एज अ फैसिलिटेटर व्हाट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन फॉलो द स्कैम्पर टेक्निक. Read up about scamper. Scamper stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. Now it might sound very complicated, पर इसमें इतना complicated कुछ भी नहीं है. तो इसमें complicated क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि basically ये भी एक brainstorming technique है, पर इस brainstorming technique में हम क्या करते हैं? हम सारे ideas नहीं लेते. जो अभी के जो existing ideas है, जो अभी हम use कर रहे हैं, उसको modify करने की कोशिश करते हैं. So if you already, supposing like we were talking about the water conservation thing, and we have created a nozzle which will ensure that the water which is running is of a smaller girth and less force. For example, you are already having a similar technique or product which is being used. So you first pick that product up and see कि उसमें क्या problem है. और जो existing जो product है या service है, आप उसको better करने की कोशिश करोगे. So if you see what a scamper technique is, it's a structured framework of creating new ideas by modifying existing ideas. So the basic difference between brainstorming and scamper is brainstorming में आप कोई भी idea ला सकते हो. Existing हो, non-existing हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता है, absolutely berserk idea आप सारे डाल सकते हो. क्योंकि ये open free flowing ideas है. Scamper में what we do is we take existing ideas and we build on that. So scamper takes lesser time to complete rather than brainstorming. So if you think a certain plan has a restriction in terms of time, then the facilitator can definitely use scamper technique because that's a better technique to use. Okay. You can read up about scamper. Scamper is there. Then we have multiple. We have star bursting. There are multiple techniques of brainstorming which can be used. So, एक बार we finished empathizing, we finished defining the problem statement. We also had 110 ideas in the ideating stage. अब 110 ideas में से हम अभी prioritize करेंगे. अच्छा ये वाला इतना अच्छा नहीं है, अच्छा इसके लिए ज्यादा पैसे लगेंगे, इसके लिए ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा, इसमें ज्यादा रिसोर्सेज लगेंगे करके हम अपने आइडियाज को फिल्टर करने लगेंगे. जो हमने 110 आइडियाज किए थे उसको फिल्टर करेंगे. फिर उसमें से जो मोस्ट वायबल आइडिया है, उसके ऊपर हम अपना प्रोटोटाइप बनाएंगे. Prototype is nothing but a tangible representation of your idea. Idea is just written as a statement. A prototype is something that you can visually see. It can be a model, it can be a storyboard, it can be done as a form of a simulation or a role play. If it is a service, then only then the other person will understand कि भाई आपका थॉट या आपका जो प्रोटोटाइप है, आपका जो आइडिया है वो क्या है. क्योंकि अगर आप एक सिर्फ सेंटेंस बनाओगे तो उससे किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा कि आप एक्चुअली क्या बनाना चाहते हो. Okay, so either I can create a model of that product or I can create a storyboard. Supposing I'm going to solve it using a video, supposing I want to create a media awareness, तो उसका मैंने एक स्टोरी बोर्ड बनाया है कि मैं कैसे लोगों को बोलूंगी कि प्लास्टिक मत फेंकिए, उसके वजह से नाले बंद हो रहे हैं, उसके वजह से पानी क्लॉगिंग हो रही है. So I will create a storyboard, or else I will do a role play for people to understand how a particular service has to be given in order to make it more productive. So the fourth stage is that of a prototype stage. And the last stage is the testing stage. अब this stage is very important क्योंकि हमें लगेगा हमने prototype बना दिया है, we have succeeded. But when you test that product, type hiss. And then you know, oh my God, this is not working. We thought it's going to get us great results, but वैसे तो हुआ नहीं. So then what do? We take feedback. Okay, ma'am, tell us what went wrong. Okay, you tell me what went wrong. Okay, what do you think we should be doing better? अच्छा, आप बताइए. So from you ask all your target audience to quickly tell us that what is it that needs to be done right. Okay, so in the testing phase, we check the efficacy of our prototype. And once we have checked the efficacy of our prototype, we gather feedback. We do a UAT. What is a UAT? Is a user assessment test. Okay, in which the user will test your product or your service and then tell you whether that service or product is working. अगर वो चल रहा है तो आपकी तो निकल पड़ी कि आपका प्रोडक्ट तो हिट हो गया. पर अगर वो नहीं चला तो फिर आपको जाना पड़ेगा आइटरेशन स्टेज में. आइटरेशन मतलब उसमें चेंजेस करने पड़ेंगे ताकि वो परफेक्ट बन जाए. Okay, so therefore testing stage is very very critical in a make or break of your problem solving idea. अब अगर जैसे ही आपने टेस्ट किया और वो ठीक नहीं हुआ और आपको लगा कि भाई मैंने तो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट ही गलत समझी थी, आप सीधा टेस्टिंग फेज से यू विल गो बैक टू दी define stage wherein you have defined your problem statement. Got it? So there is absolutely no what do you say worry on which stage you have to be in. You can be in any of the 5 stages and go into any of the 5 stages from there, because this is such a beautifully what do you say seamless process of problem solving. Let me quickly recap for you. The first stage is the empathize stage, wherein you ask your audiences what is the problem. The second stage is the define stage, in which you define the problem that you're going to solve. In the third stage is the ideation stage. In this stage, you tell them, you all the everyone who's working on the project puts together all their ideas either through brainstorming or through starbursting or through scamper to put down all the ideas that can solve that problem statement. And then we form a prototype. The prototype can be a model, can be a storyboard, can be a can be a PPT presentation, can be a video, can be anything which will help the other person understand कि आपने क्या बनाया है. And then comes the testing phase, in which you give it to the user, let the user use it, see the efficacy of it, take feedback, and then begin the process of iterations or improvements. This is a simple yet very effective way of solving any kind of problem. So if you see, these are a few design thinking tools. Like I already mentioned to you, there are many mind mapping apps which are available. There are many prototyping tools which are available online, which you can use. Some part of it is free. some part of it is paid, but there are prototyping tools which will help you design your prototype. And there are many collaborative platforms in which the teams can ask questions and get answers from people who have worked on a similar kind of a problem. So it's a very, very collaborative effort if you think of it. Okay. These are prototyping kits. See the ones that you can see here. So they have made a corrugation box which can carry, which is small and tight and can carry heavy weights. It looks like this, but it can carry heavy weight. So that's one of the prototypes which was built using cardboard. That's a model which was prepared. So, how are you going to be able to implement design thinking in your classrooms? By giving them group projects, by asking the peers to give feedback. Now, me, Vividha, Anu, and Shabnam are in one group. Okay. And the other group comprises of Suma, Aditi, Priya. So now I will do my work. I will see their prototype and I will say, ये तो अच्छा है पर आप इसको ऐसे कर सकते हो. So what am I doing? Group A is giving a feedback to Group B. Group B is giving a feedback to Group A. C is giving to D, D is giving to C. So there is a sharing, a constructive and healthy sharing of feedback so that we can improve our prototype or I can improve my solution to the problem. And of course, when you're doing this, there is shared learning. We are constantly learning with each other and we are learning from each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. So, one of the case studies, this is a case study which was done by one of the schools. That school, after COVID, obviously because of COVID, the school garden was not being taken care of. So, the project that was given to the school was to build a sustainable kitchen garden. And this was not restricted to a particular grade. Right from grade 5 to grade 10, all children were asked to work on this project. Now, that's a great problem solving project. And the method to be followed in this, they have given was the design thinking method, wherein every grade was allowed to come up with the best possible sustainable garden solution. Because they said that what if we are not able to water the plant for 2 days? So then people came up with drip system, with sprinkler system. So they looked at various ways in which water can be continued to supply even in the absence of a human resource. And what was the outcome? That kitchen garden was to supply the vegetables to the kitchen pantry wherein the lunches were prepared for the students. So imagine the happiness of this case for the students wherein they know that the bell pepper that they are eating in their pasta is grown in their own garden. So it was a great way to initiate collaboration, to get the feeling of oneness and accountability in children. So these kind of projects, design thinking projects, can be incorporated in your schools also, because it will not just improve the performance of the children because they'll be more prepared to solve real life problems, but they will actually be able to see the outcome of their hard work. So, creating a kitchen garden in the school was one of the case studies that was done. And this is a real life thing which I'm sharing with you because these were concerns that schools faced. Because, of course, many children, when they came back from COVID, came with a very negative state of mind. So, to distract them from that and give them a purpose, this was given wherein everyone felt that they were doing something which is going to contribute in someone else's life. So people who were overcoming their personal loss, personal grief, they also got completely absorbed in this design thinking process of creating a school kitchen garden. So this is a great way. Any of the schools who want to do it can go ahead and initiate this in their respective schools because, and I'm just giving you one example. There are multiple things that you can do if you're having an RO system in your school. Okay, now you're having an RO system in your school which is cleaning your or filtering your potable water in school, and you ask the children that what are the other better ways of ensuring that each and every child has access to potable water. So apart from the RO water, what else can we do? So the children can come up with maximum number of ideas, including something as simple as having an earthen pot installed at different places in the school, which that earthen pot has decantation, okay, and automatically the natural minerals of the clay get absorbed into the water, so the water that you're getting is actually fortified water, and plus when you keep it there, automatic water temperature control. So I'm saying there are multiple ways that you can engage your learners, because अभी के बच्चे, बहुत कम बच्चे अर्दन पॉट से पानी पीते हैं, सब बॉटल फ्रिज से निकालते हैं और पानी पीते हैं, और उनको लगता है वही एक तरीका है ठंडा पानी मिलने का. But you can introduce them to these traditional ways of having cold or temperature controlled water, that also in a very, very hygienic environment. So these kind of projects, if they are assigned to the children, a lot of learning can come from them, and most importantly, a lot of engagement. When the children are engaged in a project like this, you will see that there is very low level of absenteeism, क्योंकि रोज उनको कुछ करना है और उनको कुछ नया करके दिखाना है और उसका रिजल्ट उन्हें दिख रहा है. तो ये सारी जो चीजें हैं, ये करने से बच्चों का एंगेजमेंट बहुत हद तक बढ़ जाता है. एंड द नैरेटिव, जब बच्चे घर जाते हैं और अपने पेरेंट्स से कहते हैं कि हम लोग इस तरह से कर रहे हैं, हमें इस तरह से बताया गया है, सो इट गिव्स अ ह्यूज इम्पैक्ट ऑन द पेरेंट ऑल्सो, बिकॉज द पेरेंट सीज दैट द स्कूल इज रियली ट्राइंग और मेकिंग एन एफर्ट टू डू समथिंग न्यू, राइट? Okay. Another way to build, आजकल के बच्चों में, if you would have seen that the concentration levels of the children have gone down drastically. Attention span has gone down drastically. They cannot listen to something for a long time. They cannot engage themselves in any kind of learning for a long time. So you can do this, you can achieve this, or you can achieve better language comprehension, better language fluency by doing another case study, which is called interactive storytelling, wherein you can engage, instead of facilitator telling them stories, you can tell the children to create interactive stories using digital tools. वो अपने कैरेक्टर्स खुद बना सकते हैं, उसके ऊपर खाली आप उनको इतना गाइड कीजिए कि किस तरह की स्टोरी होनी चाहिए. A story which has a moral, a story which through which they can learn something, a story which will enable problem solving. So interactive storytelling is basically, the goal is to build literacy skills in the children. Children will use digital tools, and this can be done for primary years, because normally primary children are more interested in stories. Not that the older ones are not, but primary children are more interested in stories. So they can be definitely used in a way that we can get them to have high levels of engagement. Now, many of you might say as principals or as teachers that मैम टाइम कहाँ है, हमको अपना बीएलडी कंप्लीट करना है, उसमें सब में ये सब टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट बहुत है. But if I was to tell you that there are many simple concepts which you are teaching in class can be consolidated using design thinking, then that can replace your regular teaching method. Because if the finally, for any learning to happen, the most important thing is to achieve the learning outcome. And if you're able to achieve that learning outcome by having alternate methods, then you can definitely apply that, as long as your children are learning, as long as your children know the requirement or the things that are needed to solve that. Okay, so, and of course, and whenever you try to do something new, there will always be resistance to change, but that should not stop you from at least encouraging children to think in this direction. Especially your older children, they really need to start thinking in this direction of how they can become better problem solvers, and no one better than you all as educators to initiate them into this process of design thinking as a great problem solving technique. And the more we use it in our, because it's such a simple process, immaterial of which subject You can use it anywhere and everywhere. Whenever we are talking of project based learning, right? We are talking of project based learning all the time, PBL. In every PBL that you're giving, you can ask them to follow the design thinking process and achieve their project outcomes in a way, better way, and something that can actually be put to use in real life rather than making those folders and just sticking them here and there, which is really just wastage of a lot of paper. So it's good that we try and evolve because children have evolved and our digital learners or digital technology savvy learners want to do something in which they can evidently see the change that they are able to create rather than just making presentations or just putting folders with tons of sheets and some information that they've collected from the internet. And how will you assess? I already told this in the start of the session that if our way of teaching is changing, then our way of assessing also needs to change. We need to create rubrics which will appreciate or which will award creativity, which will award problem solving, which will award collaboration and teamwork. So when you make a rubric and you put these parameters on a scale like a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 4, then you give them grades basis their creativity, basis the critical thinking that they exhibited, basis the problem that they were able to solve, basis how they functioned as a team. Were they always fighting? Was there no coherence? Were there some people who were always doing everything and there were some people who were never given an opportunity to do? So all of these can be done using a very smart rubric. So if we start assessing them on everything else other than just giving them 20 on 20 in a test, you'll automatically see that the children will start having wider horizons and will be able to do their work in a more creative and engaging manner. And the most important thing, if we want to bring this change in our classrooms, it begins with all of you, my dear friends. Unless and until you are ready, and until you know what is design thinking, unless and until you know how to innovate in your classrooms, how is it that we are going to be able to educate another generation which is sitting in our classroom? We will only be able to see their disengagement, but we won't be able to do much. Therefore, it is important that when we have to bring about this kind of a change, when we have to do innovation in our classroom, when we have to do flipped classroom in our classroom, when we have to do collaborative learning in our classrooms, when we have to introduce problem solving through design thinking in our classrooms, each one of you, my dear educators, needs to be aware. And for that, we these kind of training sessions, we have workshops, there are plenty of online courses, and when you want to, supposing there is a particular school which has done a community project like this or a problem solving project like this, then because we are such a large network, we are 105 schools, we can connect with each other and we can share what one particular school did as a good practice, and that practice can then be emulated by all others. We do this often. So we have a business activity which is run every month, and all your principals come, and when we discuss that particular business activity, all principals give us more ideas on how that can be done or how they had done it earlier. So what happens, all these best practices are shared between all the MLZS schools, and every school is empowered to take this ahead. So, professional development of educators to bring about any change is absolutely imperative. If you do not know about design thinking, you will never be able to educate your children about it. So, it all begins with you. And we know that the teachers are the soul of our school. So, we want to ensure that the school is well nourished and well nurtured. Only when they are, then they can cascade it down to their learners. With that, we've reached to the last checkpoint, and I'll request some of the volunteers to raise their hands so that they can help me read this question out and give me an answer so that I know you understood the 5 stages of design thinking well. Do I have any volunteers? Lovely. Oh, such a lovely name. Lovely. Please unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, lovely.
Identify the stage in the process of design thinking that involves creating tangible representation of ideas to test and refine. A. Hypnotize. B. Define. C. Prototype. And D. Test.
Which one do you think
And,
it is, lovely?
and the answer is, I think, C. Prototype.
Thank you so much, lovely. Let's see if all our educator friends also think that way. Thank you for reading that out. C prototype, Farheen, Lakshmi, Shweta, Maninder, Vividha, everybody is saying C. So we all understand this, that when we are creating a representation of our idea, something that can be tested, then it is the prototype stage. Now, the prototype can be of a product, can be of a service, can be of an awareness campaign, it can be anything. But prototyping is actually making a tangible representation of the solution that you want to give for a particular problem. Let me see if more answers. Yes, all C's, all C's. Any other answer? Rajni, Shipra, Bharti. Okay, everybody C. C because it can be seen visually. Yes, Shipra, that is the right answer. You can see it visually. Great. So, with that, we come to an end of today's session. And now the stage will be open for questions. And before that, for feedback. So, this is your QR code. So, please scan the QR code and please give me a feedback on what we learned today. I will also share it in the chat window for those who are unable to scan it here. Just give me a moment. I'll share it in the chat window too. Just give me a moment. I'll give the link. Everybody, just give me a moment. I'm sharing the link. For those who want to use the scanner, please go ahead and use it. And while you're doing that, let's quickly summarize. Can I have a volunteer? Lovely, I'm putting your hand down because I understand you've not lowered your hand. So, can I have a volunteer to read this out for me, the summary of what we set out to achieve and that we achieved in the process? Priya, please unmute yourself.
Summary time. This is need for innovation, way of innovation in the classroom, tool for innovation to increase engagement, ICT for classroom innovation, design thinking, characteristics of design thinking, importance of design thinking in education, stages of design thinking process.
Sorry. Okay, you did read it out. So, Priya, were we able to achieve all of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, wonderful. So, is design thinking something new, Priya, or have you done it before in school or read about it earlier?
Uh, but you enhance our knowledge today, and your words are wonderful. Always we learn in the sessions.
Thank you so much, Priya. Really
Learn
means a lot.
through all the sessions.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's really very gratifying to know that you are attending all the sessions, Priya. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, yes, with that, we come to an end of today's session. I will be sharing the assessment link also with all of you. I've shared it in the chat window. And this is the QR code. I will once again put it in the chat window. Just give me a moment. I'll put it in the chat window. For those who can access the QR code, please use the QR code to share your answers, or else I'm also putting it in the chat window. Give me a moment.